Yeah, I'm sure. Well, hey, Chris, good morning to you. Major League Baseball owners approved a plan yesterday to bring baseball back. That's according to the Associated Press. And now today, that proposal heads to the Players Union. So here's what they'll be considering. To start, according to the Associated Press, spring training would begin in mid-June. The regular season would open on 4th of July weekend. Teams would play 82 games, and instead of 10 playoff teams, there would be 14. Games would be played without fans, at least to start. But the important thing, at least for some fans, is that there even is a start.
It could all change again tomorrow, but it's exciting just even to be thinking about it.
And as we mentioned, that proposal now heads to the Players Union for consideration, and there's been talk already, some concerns about health and safety and how to split revenues. So a lot more to come on this, Chris.
It's nice to have a sliver of hope for something starting up in this time where we need some kind of something to look forward to at least. Thanks a lot, Jennifer.